What's up, everybody, and welcome to the NFL Showdown pre-lock show. I'm your host, HeadChopper. I'm going to walk you through the next roughly 40 minutes or so until we kick off. As always, joined by SquirrelPatrol, John Breslin, coming off of a huge weekend last weekend. Ready to knock it out the park with a little Thursday night football to get us cranked up for the football weekend. John, man, how's it going?
Good. This is kind of a back to the quality of Thursday night games we've maybe had in previous seasons. We had a nice string of really good primetime games. And this one maybe not as appealing. Like these teams weren't that good last year, but hoping for better things this year. Both 1-1 coming into it. And with Miami facing some injuries they weren't expecting, this could be a relevant game in the AFC East. So Aaron Rodgers is back for the Jets, and we'll see how they look tonight against the Patriots.
Well, I would say the Patriots have looked better than what at least I thought they were going to look like. So they've been competitive, so we got that going for us. And I always enjoy a game where Brees Hall's running wild on people. So, at least there's something to tune into tonight. This is a chat-driven show, so please fire off all those questions. I am particularly looking at the YouTube chat. So if you got questions, get in there, fire them off. We'll answer them. Hit the like button while you're there. Help us out. Do all that good stuff. At some point in the show, DFS will answer all those questions. I also want to talk a little props if we had any favorite props for tonight. People, I found that, if you don't want to make the rosters to compete against 100,000 teams in DFS on a showdown slate, you can just compete against yourself, man, and do some player props and make some really good money. You could hit a six for six on a player prop site and get paid as much these days sometimes as if you would have hit tie for first place in the big contest with like 2,000 other teams. You can hit just as much in the player prop market if it's really chalky stuff hidden in DFS. So, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I got some things that they give me the list of stuff to read, so I got to read the stuff, But so I got a whole list here. But I'm going to start off with Splash Sports. In fact, I just got a notification. I need to go and fill out some something I must have out there that I need to make some picks for. But if you haven't heard of Splash Sports, it's an awesome little site right now that kind of brings in the whole sports betting thing to kind of a DFS theme, player prop theme. They've got all kinds of stuff you can play on the site in both college and pro. It's awesome stuff. The Survivor stuff is awesome. If you played an NFL Survivor, there's a good chance. If you got in week 1, and you're still alive, there's a good chance about 60% of the field has been eliminated. When I checked the numbers last week, 35% were donezo after, I want to say it was Baltimore they got upset. That was this past weekend, I believe, wasn't it, Squirrel? Baltimore got upset, and Oakland beat them, and then San Francisco lost to Minnesota. That eliminated like 35% more of Survivor people. So, if you're in, you're in good shape right now. But if you're out, get in the Survivor Revival stuff. RotoGrinders has one. They have one on their site for $50K up, $50K prize pool. That's pretty good stuff. And you can start fresh, start right now. It's pretty awesome stuff. And then of course they got Pick'em, they got tiers, they got. I don't know if if you're able to access them, you can play any of these games and. They got against the spread stuff going on, like pools against the spread. I found that to be really interesting. Coming from a state where I cannot bet legally on sports, but I can play Splash Sport, and that gives me a chance to maybe do a little spread pick 'em. I like it. So we got that going for us. Now, are you in Splash? Are you in the RotoGrinders pool, John?
I am. I'm not doing well.
Yeah,
but I think I'm beating you. So.
Hey. I'm not doing well, and Roth called me out the other day, and that was pretty sad stuff. So I've definitely got to pick it up, man. So I need to look at that. I need to be reminded to look at that after the show. But guys, the questions, that's what we're here for. We're going to get to them right now, answer some questions. Got some good stuff. Let's see. Jeff was in here really early, and he says he's in the process of getting the lineups done. He faded both these in the 20 max. It scares him. That's a chance to be quite different. Man, typically not really. I wouldn't really say that scares me, but I do like the Jets tonight. What's your thoughts on the defenses tonight?
That's my whole strategy is actually avoiding the defenses. I think that I think they're going to be overowned. This is like not as a mistake-prone Patriots team as we're used to with like Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, and like the I think they were I think second in the league in interceptions, like third in turnovers last season. I don't think they have a turnover yet this year. So I think people are going to be loading up on the Jets defense. I think we're showing like 20% ownership to like the Jets defense and flex. I think it's going to be significantly higher than that. I think the Patriots will see some defensive ownership as well, and the defensive scoring is so random. Like the Jets can have a good defense and a bad defensive score. Like they probably need a defensive touchdown to get there, and I'm just willing to bet that it doesn't happen. Like I'd rather play some of these like cheap Patriots wide receivers, and it's scary, it's uncomfortable, it's very like binary. Like I'm gonna know, if Jacoby Brissett drops back, throws a pick six, then closing the laptop. But I don't like the defenses as much tonight, I think, as other people.
Yeah, that's usually a pretty good stand, to be honest with you. It's just every once in a while something comes along, and like tonight, I just feel like the Jets they've gotten kicked around a little bit so far this year. I think that they're a lot more talented. I think they answer that. But some other stuff here. Okay, here's the meat and potatoes that people really want to know. Who's your favorite DK captain today? Now, don't confuse this with the Plums play of the night, which we're going to give out in a little bit. So don't give away no secrets here, but just DK captain, looking at the salaries and everything, who's your favorite?
So I think you've got to go Brees Hall. like if you care about getting the money back, then go Brees Hall. I might end up under the field. I think he's going to see a lot of ownership, but it's a good play. Like in terms of like plays, I think might be chalky. I'm going to fade like the Jets, not Brees Hall. I'll try to like use Hall creatively, but I think if you're just asking the kind of question like who's the best captain in DraftKings tonight, I think you've got to say Brees Hall.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then when we switch to FanDuel and you have to pick an MVP, just in general, we'll get into specific contests later, but just in general, who's your favorite MVP over there?
Brees Hall, even more so than on DraftKings.
Over there, we're looking at these quarterbacks. We usually want the quarterbacks on FanDuel, but these two guys really look like very average plays. So how do you feel about the quarterbacks in the MVP over there as like an option other than Brees?
Yeah. So I mean, I think if you're asking, it's tough because the question like who's the best MVP or who's the best captain can be a little bit generic. It's like when I answer that question, I generally am not weighing ownership as much. If you're playing a really large field contest, like you're playing like one of the million contests that's got hundreds of thousands of people, then I do think you really want to consider ownership. And I think on FanDuel, even I would go with I think playing one of the quarterbacks and pairing them with a receiver or two, especially like a creative receiver or two, is a good way to go. That can hit. That's not going to be played as often as it's going to be optimal. So I would say play like Aaron Rodgers and like Mike Williams or something like that, because a lot of people are going to be going Garrett Wilson, and Wilson's like a great play. Like if you're trying to beat the 100,000 people, you've got to get different somewhere. So an Aaron Rodgers captain, Garrett Wilson MVP. Even switch it up. Garrett Wilson in the MVP. Rodgers in the one of the util spots. I don't mind playing Jacoby Brissett. If you're trying to beat like 100,000 people, play Jacoby Brissett. Pair him with like Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, the second round rookie. Get a little bit different if you're trying to beat 100,000 people. In a way that still like makes sense. Like you don't need to be throwing like Jermichael Hasty in the MVP, but put one of the starting quarterbacks. Like it wouldn't be shocking if they're the highest scoring player at the end of the night. So like the quarterbacks and MVP in the large field contest.
Yeah, Ronald Bryant has the right idea. He says hit that like button, guys. That'll help us out a little bit. Chili says Brees Hall most receptions plus 300 seems decent. I don't disagree with that. This could be a check down game, and Brees is very good at catching the ball. Jay Kearney has a question for us. Are we chasing the Braylon Allen game tonight?
I'm not, but I do think, like, when I say, like, oh, Bruce Hall's the best captain, I don't know. What if they are trying to make this more of a split backfield? Not that Brees Hall's not a great player, but there is that thing in the back of my mind. Like, well, what if they've got, this isn't a year they've got Aaron Rodgers. So, like, what if they're thinking about the playoffs, especially with Miami maybe falling apart a little bit? Are they thinking, like, well, we want Brees Hall rested a little bit for January? So that is a little bit of a concern. Don't know that I'm chasing the Braylon Allen game so much as I'm maybe coming off of the Brees Hall ownership a little bit, thinking that Allen might get some good work. I think Allen's a little bit expensive, and he's a little bit. I think he's going to see some high ownership based off of last game. So I'm not so much chasing that game as I am a little bit hesitant than I would have been otherwise on Brees Hall.
Yeah, my opinion is that the Jets are very lucky. They have an embarrassment of riches in the backfield. Braylon Allen, I thought, was incredible in his time at Wisconsin. He's still in the NFL right now. He's not even 21 years old. He's still a baby. They got both of them. But with that being said, I'm not chasing him. I can't. I think he got a little bit lucky to get in the end zone last week. And you're kind of dependent on touchdowns for him because I don't think he's going to get enough volume. Although he's really good and he could break an 80-yard touchdown, that would be like a slate breaker here tonight. But no, I'm not chasing it. So we'll see how that plays out. Bud Ho, I need to fill it in the Plums play of the night. You know what? We are going to do that, and we're 22 minutes from tip off. I want to do it a little bit early tonight, a little bit earlier, since you never know when somebody might feel the need to adjust a couple rosters based on that. So we'll do that in about 5 minutes. We'll do that. But yeah, that's definitely coming. Dean says, I had the Taylor Swift read the other night. Apologies for giving you a hard time. It is tricky. You know what, Dean? It is tricky. It's a tricky read. Now, like, speaking of the Taylor Swift read, let's go, Taylor Swift Tix Pick read, okay? Tix Pick. Are you someone dying to go? Are you or someone dying to go to the Taylor Swift Eras Tour? Play for free, the game, chance to win 2 tickets, a trip to Vancouver. Check it out. TixPick6.actionnetwork.com to play. And stay tuned for a short video at the end of the show. It's not going to come right now. It's going to come at the end of the show. But I don't know if your kids aren't old enough yet to get into that kind of stuff, right? But I'll tell you from experience, last night, I have some fresh experience. It's not related to Taylor Swift. Don't want to get the Tix Pick mad at me, but I let my kids last night. I let them go to the Nicki Minaj because that's the first time she's ever been to San Antonio. And I guess a couple of my kids are a fan, and they're old enough to kind of do it, and go. And John, I tell you what, it's a crazy world out there. It's nerve-wracking letting your kids we weren't going to go as parents. We just let them go. So get an Uber back home, follow them the whole way. We have the Find My, family app and everything about it. So everything was safe, but just kind of letting them have a little freedom. But man, nerve-wracking. But, Taylor Swift, I heard those are good concerts. Send your kids out. Try to get in free with that contest right there. Sounds good. Like your kids, Taylor Swifties?
No, my daughter really likes Pink. I mean, she's 8. She actually has been to a Pink concert with my wife. So not so much into the I think she thinks Taylor Swift's okay. She prefers Pink.
Fair enough. KJ Osborne or Tyler Conklin?
I would go Tyler Conklin.
Yeah, you know what? I want to talk about props here tonight, just real fast while we're on that subject. I kind of look at it tonight, and with looking at the New England actives and inactives and all the receivers that are going to suit up tonight, I kind of went down the board and just did a bunch of 3 and 4 teamers with nothing but unders on the New England receiving core. Then you have to add a player from the other team. So I was like Brees Hall over yards, Brees Hall to score a touchdown, stuff like that I really feel good. But I was just like under, Brees Hall, under, because I feel like, man, they're going to have a hard time passing, I think. But I don't know. What do you think?
So I think they have 85 yards receiving this year. All of them, all the New England wide receivers. I like the idea that everybody else is seeing that too. So for DFS, I like the idea of being over the field on like the New England passing game, which sounds like as uncomfortable, like it's as uncomfortable to say as it sounds, right? But like if I'm doing a player props, I think there's maybe less bias there or something like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think like from a player prop perspective, I think it's fine. I don't like from a DFS perspective, I think these guys are going to see like zero ownership. And one touchdown could shape this game a little bit. So especially like from a DFS perspective. So.
If you're one that really wants to like mitigate your risk, you can play the guys on the DFS side of it, and then kind of like come back on the player props and take some unders, and you can still hit it both ways. If they get in the end zone in DFS, you're good. But under there's a lot of good stuff you can do. Stevenson captain Brian says, yeah, Stevenson, that's not a bad play considering that most people are going to go with a couple of Jets up top first. Hunter Henry captain, Joey Sly captain. I don't know about Butthole. I think Butthole was making a joke. We don't play kickers and captain, do we? Even though his game looks juicy as hell with like a 35 total, right?
I've got some kicker captain. I won't lie.
Whoa, really? You're going for it? Well, these guys are knocking 50 yardage in like it's nothing these days.
Yeah, like single digit percentage. I got a handful of like Joey Sly captain, but not enough that it's going to make or break the bank. But it hits every once in a while, and when it hits, it's usually a game that feels a little bit like
this. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, you know what? I don't want to beat around the bush too much. I want to give people time. We got about 17 minutes to lock. Let's get that Plums play of the night from you, Squirrel, just in case anybody wants to do some adjustments. They got plenty of time right now to do it. So, floor's yours.
So this is kind of a representative Plum, but it is probably a guy that I like playing a lot. I think he's underpriced. Like mentioned in my article, I saw his price. I'm like, oh, they mispriced him. But he's actually the most expensive Patriots wide receiver is Demario Douglas. This is super random. Like, don't necessarily follow this advice with money that you can't lose. But I think people are just looking at these like numbers. We're not in a game anymore where people are just like blindly like picking guys that they thought were good in college or whatever, or guys that were good last year. Like everybody's looking at these numbers. Patriots wide receivers have not done anything in the first two games, but it hasn't been like devastating to the team. They're 1-1. Hunter Henry's been getting all the attention at tight end. I think that could maybe flip a little bit. Like I'm just having a feeling in the Plums about some Patriots wide receiver. I don't know exactly who it is, but I think it's most likely going to be Demario Douglas. That's getting a few receptions, maybe gets in the end zone, and maybe he just breaks one, pretty long reception, gets a touchdown. So yeah, Demario Douglas, feeling him in the Plums.
Feeling it in the Plums. I'm going to give you a player, but I'm going to preface it by saying I have pushed the lock button on Breece Hall as a captain, but that's too easy to give out as a Plums player tonight, and that's probably pretty chalky too. So, but that's my guy. I'm going with that. But for a Plums play, we'll do something a little different. I don't hate the idea, and I know you're not on these guys, but that's okay. I really think the Jets defense is going to like show up today and really shut down New England. Maybe keep them out of the end zone. Freaky things happen, but I think they've gotten pushed around, and they're just a lot more talented than that. And this is a overachieving New England team and one-dimensional. Some would say. You mentioned the wide receivers and tight ends. Really, wide receivers don't do very much. I'd say the Jets, man. If I had more rosters, I might. Now that's not a captain play. That's a flex play. You don't really want to take a chance on captain defenses, but that's where I'm going. So that's our Plums play of the day, just in case you guys want to mess around with that. Carolina guy is in here. Favorite GPP MVP on FanDuel. That's large field. And then I think we talked about it earlier. You're really into Breece Hall with some side servings of some other guys, but flex, low owned, large field on FanDuel. This is the Carolina guy's asking.
Low owned flex on FanDuel.
Could I tempt you with like a Mike Williams tonight? Like somebody's gonna Like maybe we're just looking for just so few touchdowns tonight.
Yeah.
One from Mike Williams might be the nuts.
I'll say that,
and you are the squirrel, so you like some nuts.
yeah. I do. I like Mike Williams a lot, actually. Like in looking like his player props, they've been increasing throughout the day. From last night compared to like Alan Lazard's are going down a little bit, and that's maybe a situation where like Mike Williams is going to start becoming the number 2 wide receiver here to Garrett Wilson. We like Mike Williams is a guy that we know can like break games. Like he gets these like huge yardage games, multiple touchdown games with the Chargers. It's been more than a year now since his knee injury, so you're hoping that he's able to like work his way in a little bit more as the season goes on. It's week 3, so yeah, I don't mind the Mike Williams call at all. Or I'd go with like one of my crazy Patriots wide receivers like Douglas or Osborne or something like that.
Yep. Down to Jay Kearney. DraftKings single entry on DraftKings, so not the large stuff. Is Henry a must since he's being targeted a lot lately? I'll leave that one up to you.
No, I'd actually maybe go away from Henry a little bit because he's really expensive on DraftKings. I did a player prop comparison of all of like the New England receivers and Hunter Henry in my article. Like there's not much difference, but there's a huge difference in price. Like Hunter Henry is almost twice as expensive as KJ Osborne, I think. Almost twice as expensive as Mario Douglas. There's not really a difference in their yardage props or their anytime touchdown. Like a little bit. Like Hunter Henry's like the best of the bunch, but he shouldn't be like 2 or 3 times the price of the other receivers.
Yeah. How do you feel if you're on FanDuel? 4 running backs with 2 kickers, 4 running backs dispersed among both the teams with a kicker. I mean, how do you feel about that build?
Yeah, I like something like that's probably just not that likely to happen. I don't think it's going to be. This is not a game that's got 28 point total or something, or 32 point total, right? This is like 38.5. Like that's not that low for NFL games these days. We're seeing less passing all throughout the league. I don't think this is going to be a game. This is not a game with like 60-mile-an-hour winds or something where like they're not going to be able to throw the ball. I think that the receiving game is going to get involved somewhere along the line. Like most likely places Garrett Wilson. But I think we'll see some passing on the Patriots side as well.
Matt asks, who's tonight's min-priced $200 gem? I don't know that there's a $200 guy out there. When you start dipping into projections that are less than a half a point, those guys aren't very good. So if you don't see a $200 guy, who's the cheapest guy that you would roster?
Yeah, Jeremy Ruckert. Actually, he's minus 170 for over a half reception. So he's favored to get a catch in there.
There you go.
And I think he's 700. And I wouldn't go crazy with him. But, some amount of him in the flex, it's possible if he does get a touchdown or something, that he just fits everybody else in.
I mean, every game's built different. And we've said that for years. Every game is different. If this was the Saints Cowboys, if this was the game on Showdown and we had the exact same outcome, yeah, rostering a guy that catches 2 passes for 10 yards with that kind of production that was in that game, that's not going to do nothing for you. You need Kamara and you need all those Shaheed and Carr and all those touchdown makers. But this game could very well be super low scoring with minimum touchdowns, and a guy like that who goes out and gets you 2 catches for 15 yards at $800 and allows you to get the guy and captain you want could be the difference. That's a good call on a night like this. Every slate's different, so we got that. Brees captain with 3 Jets pass catchers at flex, but no Aaron Rodgers. Is that a viable lineup construction?
I don't know. Because if so many Jets wide receivers are getting there, then Rodgers is probably getting there too. Like I'd maybe try to find somebody else other than because if the Jets are scoring, they got to kick the ball off. So maybe try somebody from the Patriots in there instead of 3 Jets pass catchers.
What is your thoughts on playing both Stevenson and Gibson in the same lineup?
I think that's okay. I think that can hit. I don't normally like that kind of thing, but if this is just a super run-oriented game, there's going to be limited scoring. So it's possible that Gibson gets a touchdown, Stevenson gets a touchdown or two, and they end up at both. That's Patriots, scoring for the day. So I think that's fine.
Now we had Alan Lazard get the big garbage time game in week 1. Can we go back to him at captain tonight? Do you feel like that's something that might repeat itself at some point this year?
I'd rather play Mike Williams at what will probably be lower captain ownership.
Okay. Aaron makes a prediction. He says Allen scores again for the Jets. It may be something they're looking to do actively, is get like Squirrel said, getting more involved. So maybe late to the show, can we get a KJ captain 500K winner? KJ Cap, man. Whew. Can you go KJ Osborne and captain?
I got a little bit of KJ Osborne.
Oh, look at you. You're on it already. This guy's reading your mind. All right. Tom says Jets are going to rely on Rodgers' arm, so I can see an interception for pick 6. Yeah. I mean, Rodgers looks a little rusty right now. I'd say that for sure. Under 160 passing yards for both quarterbacks. That's not a bad prop to put in there. Under on those passing yards for both of these guys. Antonio Gibson on DK, question mark.
So I think he's fine. I just said you can play Stevenson and Gibson in the same lineup. I'm a little bit worried he's going to go overowned just based off of his last game. I mean, he had like 95 yards. He's probably not going to do that again. So I think he's fine. I prefer the other guys in the price range over him. But it's really hard to differentiate. I would just go with maybe one of the receivers. So I think Gibson's like 3,600. I probably like Douglas or Polk or Osborne more. They're going to see a lot lower ownership, I think. So yeah, but each their own. I think the receivers are more risky, but going to be lower.
Jim Parrish says thoughts on Mike Williams. I don't know if you can rewind that tape about 7 or 8 minutes, but Squirrel gave you a pretty good take on Mike Williams. If you want to jump back and get that, he actually kind of likes him as for the upside tonight. Cody Goddard. I've got 3 Jets pass catchers. Should I captain Aaron Rodgers to get the correlation, or do I not need him at all? I think you kind of talked to that, but he's got 3 Jets guys. I'm assuming in flex. Should he just go ahead and find a way to roster captain Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I always do that. I actually have like a rule that's that I talk about. Like I actually go through in my article how to set up the rule. Like how to set up the group in lineup HQ. But I don't allow I don't allow 3 pass catchers from the same team unless
you got the QB there. Is it 2 would be your max without that QB?
Yeah. It's like I mean, if 3 receivers are having such a great game that they end up in the winning line, the quarterback's probably the captain.
Yeah, Geek Hippie is no quarterback lineup on FanDuel tonight. Is that viable? No quarterback at all on FanDuel.
I think it's viable. Yeah.
Tonight of all nights, it kind of looks like you just might be. I mean, Jacoby Brissett's like the ultimate, just flat out game manager. Do not make a mistake. So don't even put the ball in play kind of thing. So yeah, him for sure can be passed on. And Aaron Rodgers, man, like I said, he hadn't looked great. On FanDuel, I don't know if you have salaries pulled up. $7,500 or under on FanDuel. You have a play in that neighborhood.
$7,500 or less on FanDuel. Oh yeah, Demario Douglas. The guy.
He's number one for. He's the number one New England wide receiver, and his prop is highest of any New England wide receiver. I mean, it's only like 27.5 yards. That tells you something about that passing game. But he's the highest prop, so he's the number one guy. Yeah, take a shot on that one. Did I miss the Plums play? Yeah, you missed it. I said in flex I'd go Jets, even though I locked in Breece Hall, so that would be my best play, but that's too easy. So I said Jets, and Squirrel went with DeMario, right?
Yeah, Demario Douglas. It's a little bit out there, but
yeah. All right, we got about 5 minutes, guys. I think we got the questions answered. So if you got any more, get them in. I'll spend a couple more minutes, and we'll talk about some props real quick. Do you have any props that you like, Squirrel? Like anything standing out to you in the prop world that people can throw in right now that you feel good about?
I'd maybe go like Alan Lazard under like under receiving yards.
You're not like the first game, the whole garbage time thing, catching up and him having this monster game. We're kind of viewing that as a true fluke, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was like definitely a garbage time touchdown in there. So, yeah, I'm kind of viewing that as a fluke.
I don't have the market for like a sports book pulled up. I don't know what the odds are on a Brees Hall anytime touchdown. So Josh is asking about anytime touchdown prop value. I don't know the odds on Brees Hall. He would definitely be the guy that you're kind of looking at it as being the best. But as far as value is concerned, maybe Mike Williams, right? Like just pure value. Like if
he's about plus 3.
Who's going to score more points? I gotta lean towards the Jets being more likely to score offensive touchdowns. If I take Brees Hall out of the equation because it's too high, minus 170, boy, that's a lot. Minus 160 for a touchdown. It's a lot these days. So let's take him out. Garrett Wilson's probably pretty high. I think the third likeliest would be Mike Williams. So that'd be your value pick right there. Personally, let's see. Let's look at something here. You know what? I'm going to go crazy. Got about 3 minutes left. I'd say a pick that might hit Aaron Rodgers 1.5 touchdown passes. I'd go over that. Maybe they bottle up Brees Hall in the red zone, and Aaron can kind of like pull his magic there. Maybe he hits Lazard for one. Maybe he gets his Conklin for one. Who knows? Garrett Wilson gets him one. Something like that. He can grab that two touchdown passes. So, between Demario Douglas being the number one wide receiver, Aaron Rodgers and Brees Hall overs, a bunch of unders on those wide receivers for New England, throw you some stuff out there, man. Throw you some stuff against the wall. TJ says Ramondre Stevenson over 15.5 receiving yards. It's actually comes from a guy who's actually digs into it real hardcore. That's actually a great pick because you got to think the Jets aren't going to give up a whole lot through the air to the wide receivers. They're not going to give up a whole lot on the ground, I wouldn't think. Check down City, man. I think that's a really good one. So, yeah. All right, man. We got about 2 minutes left. I think we can sign off now. I think we've effectively answered all these questions. We got some props out of the way. So, Squirrel, you have anything to tell the people before we get out of here?
No, just go Patriots passing offense.
Yeah, there you go. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back on Monday night for some more football. Get those questions in chat on that particular day for that game. Until then, good luck on those GPPs. For TJ behind the scenes, that was Squirrel Patrol. I was your host, Chop, and we're out of here.
Don't let the Chads, Brads, and Dads have all the fun this football season with their parlays and their fantasy team. You can have fun too by playing Tix Pick 6, and you'll have a chance to win a trip for 2 to the Eras Tour in Vancouver. And the best part, it's totally free. So here's the deal. Each week, you'll make 6 picks. 2 of them will be about Taylor, like who's going to be in the suite with her that game. The other 4 will be about the Chiefs game, and it's designed to teach you the basics of sports betting. So who will cover the spread, or will Travis score a touchdown? You earn points for every right answer, and those points turn into entries into the grand prize drawing. You can win up to 13 points a week. Don't know anything about sports betting? Don't worry. I've got you. Each week I break it all down in a preview article so you can make more informed choices. You must be 21 plus and in the US to enter. For more, check out TixPick6.actionnetwork.com.